Helps if you swallow before you try to breathe. Hey guys, welcome back. We're still in 2 John. We're looking at the second half of the chapter. It's only one chapter, so it's nice and brief, only 13 verses. But let's get into this. We're looking in verses 7 to 11. Again, we have looked yesterday at the deceivers who are heretics, who are hazardous, and are here. We need to be careful with them and keep that heresy away from us. So let's look in these verse 9 to 11 of the doctrine of Christ. Verse 9, whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Let's look at verse 9 at the doctrine of Christ. We see Doctrine Defined. We see this here really in the opposite of the heresy from verse 7. So verse 7, going back to those deceivers from yesterday, for many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. So if that is their wrong teaching, their heresy, we can reverse that and find the true teaching, the doctrine of Christ. That is that Christ is God, and that he has come in the flesh to save us. That is the doctrine of Christ that is talking about here. So we see that about the doctrine of Christ. And then we see the abiding in the doctrine of Christ. He says, if you transgress and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ, if you don't hold on to that doctrine, but are following after those false teachers, after those heretics who are deceiving people, then you don't have God. But he that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, who lives here, who dwells in this doctrine that Christ is God, that he wasn't just some man who lived a good life, but that he was God himself, then you have both the Father and the Son. That you have God, that he is with you, that you have a relationship with him. That's a wonderful thing. So we see Doctrine Defined. We looked at Deceivers Defined yesterday, Doctrine Defined today. So let's go look at our third point under Deceivers and Doctrine, that is dealing with deceivers. So now that we know who the deceivers are and who the doctrine of Christ defined, we understand those 2 points. How do they match? What happens when they meet up? So what would happen is there would be people that come along. There were teachers that would go throughout the New Testament times to the churches who would be traveling, and they would bring the word of God to these people, and they would teach in their churches. And they didn't have hotels back then, so they would have to stay in the house members of churches, in the houses of church members. That's how it is. And they would come into town and they would teach in the church, and they would go home and spend the night with a church member and be there for a day, a week, or a month and be teaching there because they didn't have this word like we have it today, that it was freely available to everyone. But John says we got to be careful with that, because not everybody who comes in and presents themselves as a true teacher is a true teacher. As we looked at yesterday, they are deceivers. They don't even believe that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. And they're teaching false doctrine. So here's what we need to do when those people come. Verse 10, if there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, that is the doctrine of Christ, that Jesus is God who came in the flesh and died for the sins of mankind and rose again, bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. He says, look, if he comes and he teaches this, you hear him in the church, you say, okay, come on in and teach. And you hear this, you need to confront him in the church and then say, no, you're not staying with us. You cannot stay here. And if he stays with you, certainly don't say, well, Godspeed with your journey. Don't wish him that. Don't say, hey, I hope you have a good time on your journey. No. He says, verse 11, for he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Basically, you're saying, hey, Satan, I hope you have a good day and good luck making disciples of Satanism. Well, that's not a good thing to do. We certainly don't want to be doing that. He says, if you have him at your house, if you wish him Godspeed, you're partaking of his evil deeds of deceiving others and leading them away from Christ. Don't do that. We need to hold to the true doctrine of Christ that is found in this book and follow him with everything that we do. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with a brief wrap up of this book, and we'll talk about where we're going next. Hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.